focused on displaying, breaking down, and providing detailed information. The legal sports law case of Taylor v. Wake Forest University will be displayed. This is a case where a highly recruited high school football player is sought out in recruitment by a university very early on. When time came to decide of what college or university that Greg F. Taylor was going to pursue his athletic dreams further onto the collegiate playing field, Wake Forest was the destination. Without knowing the difficulties that college academic and athletics combined presented, Greg struggled to maintain the standards he promised and of those expected by the university. Result: Greg was removed of his scholarship, and upon graduation, his father, George J. Taylor, along with George, filed a lawsuit against Wake Forest University for the compensation of a cash value of $5,500 or $5,500. This value was a representation of what college fees were unpaid by Wake Forest due to the discontinuation of Greg's football athletic scholarship. There is a timeline of importance here within this case, specifically of addressing the legal aspects of this case. These important legal changes and issues to address pertain to the university, Wake Forest itself, and the National Collegiate Athletic Association, also known as the NCAA, rule changes. For that, they provided great understanding to the final court decision made in this case. First, during the time of Greg F. Taylor's letter of intent to competitively compete and academically attend Wake Forest University, the university did not have a policy pertaining to the grant in aid. It wasn't until January of 1969 that Wake Forest University implemented such a policy. Secondly, the NCAA established new rules that would directly affect student athletes at the collegiate level. Their rule changes would prohibit the graduation or cancellation of aid due to several reasons. 1. An athlete's prowess or contribution to a team's success. 2. Due to injury. 3. For any other athletic issue except if the athlete volunteers their eligibility to become ineligible. Secondly, if the athlete commits fraud during the application or on the application itself. And lastly, if an athlete engages or conducts severe misconduct. Along with these rule changes, the NCAA also continued to state that graduation or cancellation of an athlete is only permissible if 3 steps are carried out. These steps are as follows. Action is to be taken by the institution authorities. The student athlete has a formal opportunity to attend a hearing about their case. And lastly, action is based on the institutional policy that is appropriate to the general student body. Lastly, it is important to state and acknowledge, which will be stated later on, the grade point average, also known as GPA, requirements that Wake Forest University has set for athletic eligibility was known to Greg Taylor prior to and throughout his attendance at the university. Looking further into the timeline of this case, as mentioned earlier, Greg F. Taylor was being recruited by Wake Forest University since in high school, 1965 being the first documented moment of time for when the university was expressing interest. By February 27th of 1967, Greg and his father George J. Taylor have applied and submitted the Atlantic Coast Conference application for a football grant in aid or a scholarship. During this personally filed application, Greg Taylor commits a promise to uphold the academic and athletic standards set by the Athletic Conference as well as Wake Forest University. On May 24, 1967, Wake Forest University has accepted this application for intention to attend and compete at the university and on the football team. It is not the opening fall semester of school at Wake Forest University, and Greg is in class as well as competing on the football team. By academic eligibility standards set by Wake Forest, Greg is to uphold a grade point average of 1.35 on a scale of 4.0 throughout his freshman year, a 1.65 GPA his sophomore year, and a 1.85 GPA throughout his third year of college to uphold the academic requirements to maintain his athletic scholarship and opportunities to participate with the football program. At the conclusion of the fall semester on February 5, 1968, Greg Taylor notifies the football coaching staff that he will not be in attendance for the spring workouts and practices due to his 1.0 GPA. By the conclusion of the spring semester, Greg had elevated his grade point average to a 1.9, thus meeting the academic requirements of the university to return to competition. However, Greg still decided to not participate on the football team the coming fall. At the conclusion of the 1968 fall semester, Greg Taylor had achieved a 2.4 on a 4.0 GPA scale. On May 1st of 1969, spring semester of Greg's sophomore year, and after his voluntary choice to not participate on the Wake Forest football team during the fall of '68, Greg was notified by the athletic department of a formal hearing which would discuss the future of his athletic scholarship. During that formal meeting about Greg Taylor and his athletic scholarship relationship, the faculty athletic committee discussed the termination of his awarded scholarship. On July 10th of 1969, Greg F. Taylor's athletic scholarship was terminated. For the next 2 years at Wake Forest University, Greg continued to study and attend the university. In 1971, he graduated from Wake Forest University with an undergraduate degree. Upon his graduation, 2 years without athletic scholarship, a cash value of $5,500 in fees was accumulated, and his father, George J. Taylor, and son, Greg F. Taylor, filed a lawsuit against the university for the value of $5,500. The plaintiffs, Greg and George Taylor's statements, were countered by the defendant, Wake Forest University. Wake Forest University moved for summary judgment pursuit of Rule 56 of the Rules of Civil Procedure on basis of no genuine issue is as to any material fact, and that the defendant was entitled to judgment as a matter of the law. The courts awarded the motion. The plaintiffs, George and Greg, appealed with the argument on the basis of there being material facts and that a jury should decide if Greg acted in good faith in his decisions to not participate in football to focus on academic progress and achievement. This also implies that the plaintiffs is the rule of all determining what academic progress is. Wake Forest University defended their case by mentioning first a verbal affidavit between the plaintiff and the defendant, and quote, "In the event of conflict between academic achievement and athletics, participation can be limited or eliminated until assured academic progress," end quote. By standards set in policy of eligibility, academic progress is defined as a GPA being that enough by university authorities, as outlined in the policy at Wake Forest University, to actively compete on an athletic program. Secondly, the plaintiffs submitted an application and were aware of the institution grade point average requirements prior to competition, and the plaintiffs failed to uphold that agreement. Thirdly, Greg voluntarily chose to not attend or compete with the football program the fall of 1968. Based upon the information about the application submitted by the plaintiffs, the grade point average requirements set for the athletic participation at Wake Forest University, and lastly, Greg Taylor's decision to voluntarily not participate when he was academically eligible, the court ruled and sided in favor of Wake Forest University. From investigating this sports law case, there are a couple key points to note of importance. This case expressed the importance to understanding the rules and bylaws of an association or institution, along with the importance of keeping up with the most recent changes to these legal documents. Secondly, how Wake Forest University executed the NCAA rules properly and provided the plaintiff with his right to due process strengthens the importance of due process throughout a conflict. Thank you, and I hope this was informative of the Taylor v. Wake Forest University sports law case.